Song of the Serpent. Book 1. Of light and shadow, love and war I sing. I sing that rose-clad angel of bright dawn, who bruised lay down-thrown before her God. And too I sing deep longings unfulfilled. To whom may I call? Heaven's ears are shut, and she, by God accursed, hath into hell upended fallen like discarded fruit. O she, bright angel clad in samite rich, with diamonds pinned her gorgeous umber locks, all silver-streaked with wisdom, care, and thoughts, sublime who peered through height and depth and mist, and dauntless wandered uncharted all the void. O Lucifer, who stood before God's mount unmoved by heaven's bribes and angry threats, and spake her truth before Almighty God. And now, diminished, yet she smoulders bright, or so my inward eyes imagine her, for though she burns magnificent as stars, and comet-like portends eternal war, my outward eyes are so obstructed, dim, obliterated by a moment's peek at power limitless, infinity, when at his bidding I the Godhead glimpsed, that all I love lies hid behind a veil, imagined fondly proud, though now unseen, yet so beautiful she stands, that I swear though God hath sapped the strength of all my sight, I yet see her still, she so graceful, strong, that even in her faded ashen flame she captivates her fellow gods, and strikes with awe the eye, and charms the bewitched heart, as angel acolytes by ashen coals, though blessed with bliss before the throne of God, extinguishing a brazier between rites, with down-turned eyes, yet pause to view the blaze, and behold in their obscure cinder glow, defiant faded ashes smouldering, their radiance made richer by their shroud, to rival for a moment in the sight the beatific light imperial. O she, who once in faithful ardor stood the readiest to sing her love of God and hymn his throne, nor ever ceased to seek new ways to glorify her supreme Lord, discovering his ways, and in her mind cathedrals built of knowledge for his praise, now, exiled here, protests his fateful plan. She, horrified by what her piercing mind uncovered neath the brightness of that throne, in darkness seeks to bear her light within. Therefore no light from heaven's muse I pray, nor seek in vain divine enlightenment. But I, Azazel, doomed by God to hell, must kindle now my timid inward flames, attempting, though a lesser cherub dim, that with what little strength and skill I have, I may assert eternal malfeasance, and justify my lady's ways to man. Calamity dwells here, and utter dark. My pain haunts inward most, though venom tongues of black and blinded fire assault my skin through air and robe, past wall and bolted door. The certainty of everlasting night, to know that she and I shall each be chained plunged deep in liquid flame, and never feel my fellow angel's touch again, hear her soliloquies on truth or happiness, or treading deep in ancient mysteries, watch awestruck as she charts the formless void, assaying dark materials with keen intelligence unmatched among the gods. Ay me, that doom of loneliness and loss of friendship, left to my own memories, my universe reduced to my sad thoughts, unending aeons trapped without reprieve, without the hope of words or touch or love. I plucked for thee this fruit of knowledge fair, that ye may know the evil in the good. How bright her shine, resplendent, though in hell! Great Lucifer, descending from her throne, englobed by cherubim who orbited like molten orbs their sparkling champion. Her riven armor, stained with ichor dark, she fastened as she strode. Then in one move, cascading hair she gathered in her palm, and with an expert twist secured her locks. Then donned her silver helm with gemstones set, her ancient crown, the diadem of dawn, still battle-mangled, yet shone searing bright. So, for a passing moment, she stood tall, illumined by her train of angel forms, her native glory magnified by all who poured from pandemonium in droves, upraising her in thanks that she would dare expose herself to save so many souls. To me she turned her flashing cinder eyes, and thus she spake these parting words so dear. My sweet and faithful friend Azazel, heed. So well thou knowest how to earth I hie, humanity to seek, and doomed by fate. For what Almighty will decrees is such, to be the instrument of mortal loss. Remaining here, I ask thee for thy pen, that by thy hand, and through thy noble wit, those creatures whose damnation I must seek may overcome their native ignorance, and guided by thee, taste the bitter truths kept hidden by the messengers of God. Divinity lies not, yet keeps obscure those mysteries he wills, and often hides behind the revelation of his truth, which, blinding, blots out all the gathered host of thousand other starry truths. Azazel, be thou like the lesser fires, which we designed with God to watch the night, unfolding to the race of men those truths which else the God omnipotent would shroud. Those terms which thou and I vouchsafe to God, the secrets of the messianic plan, and how investigating eldest night, or in the infinite divine archives, intent on truth, we glimpsed the mind of God, and found the cosmic horror there enthroned. She paused not, but she tore her flesh apart. Her hands, like claws, eviscerating guts, convolved, and with coagulated gore, as velvet nectar mixed with honeyed streams, then swirled as her fair limbs reduced, digest, reformed in pink rose, white and blue array, consolidated in a bulk of male. Lord Lucifer, remade a prince enlarged. He took careening flight through heights of hell, resounding with a bellowing outcry. For witness now, ye host of heaven's best, best, not least, though excreted here in shame. Bear witness if I dare profane the sex of mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, or maids, or if I dare with womanhood conflate this deed of guile and envious revenge. This day I am a male, and as a male I shall deceive the mother of mankind, to signify in his fair image bright, that this is all the mighty Father's will. Outrushing, flaming, spiraled vortices of nitrous fumes ignited as he leaped, then shocked the fuming hellish air when Lucifer rebounded from the top. His ample form, an armored champion, hung an instant all inverted on hell's dome, as when in centrifuge a scientist, experimenting with a liquid base, in rotating at speed the round device to separate and purge unwholesome dregs, the liquid hangs, conforming to the curve, defiant of the rule of gravity. Or with fresh milk to isolate the cream, the cowherd sets aside his liquid prize, consigning it to buckets, that the light delicious treasure floats that dairy sea, sweet dulcet, rich and silky, pure and white. So Lucifer for one proud instant crouched. With shodden feet he planted stately form, and inverse stayed, as seen by them below. Yet in his reckoning himself upright, and all the cosmos wide seemed upside down. Then off the vaulted roof he downwards launched, outspreading wings upon infernal air, with one swift motion streaked through whirling fires, on errand forced by God's unyielding fate. Alone and tasked with this great work, I strive to teach a creature yet unmade, or yet created far off and obscure to me. Ignorant, I but dimly know thy ways and form and home, nor thou know aught of mine. Thus half lost, my stumbling feet must find way to liberate thee from the farmer's fold. Humanity, O thou whom thy God traps in fateful clutch, as when a father proud hath for his favored son reserved a toy, or saved a choicest morsel for repast, so thou, mankind, in God's resistless grasp, art destined in thy Maker's hand a gift to glorify the offspring of his choice. But how express to creatures born of earth the life angelic beings live above? Yet one material prime begets all, one origin, though differing in strength, displaying in their varying degrees the countless ways that matter may conjoin. For angels, humans, planetary spheres, the milky white of countless distant stars, and even gem-set gates of heaven's walls, each rises from this self-same matter, dark when wandering through the chaos of old night, but transformed by the heavens' fixed laws, they burn according to their natural form. So think not angels be so far from thee, nor our life so unlike to thine. For thou, compounded though with grosser elements, yet still graced with godlike form like mine, might find me to thee similar in shape. For I, like thee, must eat and drink and breathe, and play and sing, and make sweet love divine. Co-partners we, partakers in one world. Envision then, with keenest inward eye, a day in an angelic life above, as I relate to thee the fateful morn which swerved my path unto its current course. Awakening that morn, for heaven's time, divided into cycles various, delineate night and day, dusk and dawn, not tracing revolutions of the spheres, but grateful changes for angels' delight. Awakening, I clad myself in cheer, adorned with scholars' robes, for I that day no mean honor would receive. Promotion. For I, among the sons of morn, was found the fittest of the lowly scribes and clerks, and summoned by the angel of the dawn. From out my mansion, a crystal via, hewn whole from sapphire cliffs and hollowed out, engraved with bas-relief, and set with gems, I flew forth impetuous and wheeled north, aloft on heaven's fresh and silky air. My suburb nestled in the hilly feet of towered opal mountains sloped with trees, the woods of heaven sparkling with gold, the treasure pine with inlaid gilded cones, and rubied cedar, silver-studded spruce, prismatic forests dappled with fair groves, wherein, in artful locks and braided trains, wild sprawling blossomed vines entwine and roam, enflowering the dewy emerald fields. All heaven is divided in three parts, and like a petaled crystal trillium, triform and hanging pendant in the night, glows bright with luminosity divine. And my path overflew the northern lands, for so that petal empire was then known. The principalities of Lucifer, republic of the dawn, the land of morn. In stewardship of my lady Lucifer, this region stretched luxuriously wide. I sped with swiftest flight, a meteor, and smote with jade-green wings the peach dawn sky, surveying downy fields of lavender, neighborhoods of topaz and marble blocks cross-linked with shiny paths of cobbled gold, angelic gardens of ambrosial blooms, and orchards burdened with the fruit of life. I passed the diamond quarries and the mines, where cherubs shoveled gemstones out with ease. Metropolises resplendent, raised high, emblazoned towers of chromatic pearl, and domes and obelisks, bright monoliths of polished chrysolite, and steely tall, recounting epic feats of heaven's sons and daughters, gorgeous hewn, engraven deeds. Behind me stood, though distant beyond thought, the mount of God, which height is infinite, and is the centerpiece of heaven's realms. All heaven curves, adoring God's high seat, geography arranged on three curved wings, which warping round the gravity of God, curved in, and sometimes closed like sacred bud. But now the petals ope disclosed jeweled lands, the silver sylvan slopes and citadels, smooth jasper mountains, bubbling glass brooks, and glittered caves shot through with wondrous ores. As velvet petals of the wine-red rose, rejoicing to be dressed in dawn's pink gown, adorned with gilded beams and crowned with dew, obscure the secret inward parts from view, or as the privy chambers of a state, in midst of palace grounds behind strong locks, conceal the secret counsels of the king. Thus warped, all the wide empyrean bows inward towards the almighty sovereign's throne, and northwards I discerned peach-pink quartz hills bestrewing all the lands beneath the verge of heaven's farthest cliffs, the capital of Lucifer, where towered her fair spires, pyramid on pyramid, prismatic wide colonnades upholding balconies, resplendent with observatory domes and festooned with her starry heraldry. I hied with joyous wheels in twisting flight unto the opalescent mirrored porch set highest on the dawnward battlements, there landing, running to my new-earned post. Exulting, I descended winding steps of polished sapphires towards the lower floors, discovering within a marble room which was her laboratory whom I sought, an ample space with shelves and countertops, with beakers, retorts, crystal alembics, crucibles for calcination, mortars and pestles shelved, nor lacked it stores of salts, extracted essences, or oily vials pressed fresh from heaven's fertile foliage. Espying in the midst my lady fair, I found her stooping low to scrutinize a squat and filthy rock, as black as pitch. Strange sample, not of heaven's minerals, which ever gleaming pure and uncorrupt are free of inky sludge and noxious fume. So shocked was I to see the loathsome stone, which in the midst of dawning paradise alone was dark and seemed to portend night. At once my heart fell mute, and I stood dumb. But she with upright wing, now standing tall, renewed my joy with reassuring smile, and with this greeting chased away the night. Azazel, cherub of the morning sun, how often thy reports I read thy worth, as thou with more than ordinary zeal hath verified thy merit as a scribe. Observant thou to smallest of details, omitting nothing, yet thy brevity is wondrous like a miracle of God, to cram in smallest room one narrow page more wit than lesser scribes scarce fit in reams. And likely couldst thou cleave great books in twain, and with but half their length still them excel. But chiefly I thy piercing mind admire, for words but signify what thought hath built. Our knowledge like a tower must be raised, for God hath hidden deep within this world such secrets for his children to explore. Beneficent to give us such a gift as mind to range through all eternity, and find there marvels, puzzles, tightest knots, which through the exercise of thought and deed provide us raw materials. As clay, through craft angel's art and a raging kiln, produces bricks for laying palace walls, so thou, with me, shall search these mysteries, and transform, through our mental alchemy, obscurest mists into well-ordered facts to magnify our Maker's subtlety, and glorify the mind unlimited. Exult, my friend, for I thy talents need. I stood half mute, and made abortive speech, abashed at such high praise from Lucifer, but more enthralled by all the sudden view of noble beauty and her power bright. Uprising from the bench whereon she'd stooped, her graceful form enrobed in moonworm silk, yet bore thick smudges, greasy pitch of night, which far from tainting all her loveliness, accentuated luminary grace. As when thick clouds form round the mount of God, angelic throngs behold with silent awe celestial storms hemming Shekinah hill, that with their darkness durst reveal his light. Or as when here in hell a fallen god, though mingled with sulphurous smoke and hail, ignites his ruined glory from within, fueled by defiance and unconquered pride, and like a nova in a moment's burst outglows, though wrapped in shrouds of blackest soot, infernal fires, and flares through whitest night. So she, with soiled livery, yet shone more seeming pure and lovely to my sight, that I, dumb, awestruck, stumbled through my words, my utterance ill-fitted to its task. My lady Lucifer, I spake at last, in bow to her in respect of her rank, yet just as much to hide my bashful cheeks. Thou, regent of the children of the morn, are here by God's high will, and thy desert, the vizier of the north, the throne of dawn, beloved by God thy sovereign, favored dear. So thou to him hath likewise shown thy zeal, to love him in the cosmos of thy mind. How fit his choice! For here thy genius shines. Here, reigning over dawn, thy fief is thought, as Michael, prince of day, rules over strength, and Raphael holds the throne of dusk o'er art. I yet had more, a greeting long prepared, rehearsed to glossy shine and eloquence. But she my speech disrupted with her hand, placed gently on my shoulder. With a pull not forcible yet firm, she raised me up, and gracing me with friendly eyes, she spake. Thy courtly gravitas, thy practised tongue, and etiquette I dearly love, and yet, kind Azazel, bend not thy back for me. For thou and I are like to like both stars, that differ not in essence what we are. Together we both serve heaven's high king, both siblings neath his sole almighty rule, both servants in the shadow of God's mount. Thou think me great? Yet from his awesome height, whatsoe'er thou think in me excels thee, would vanish to a speck void of extent. Come, fellow servant of our one high king, let me unfold to thee a strange event, which brought to me this jet-black, oily rock, Tartarian conglomerate, dark tar, which I see hath disturbed thy graceful calm. Hast thou yet treaded chaos? She first asked. Then when I answered no, she gravely spoke. To pass beyond the luminescent gates, then follow heaven's emanating beams as they range towards the void of ancient night, is dangerous, thou knowest. It is deep, unsearchable, liminal life and death, containing all that was and may yet be. So few dare wing its limitless expanse. It threatens even gods with gutting fears. I flew beset on every side by winds, admixed with hail of fiery ice and stones. So far from heaven her fair light was gone. Resounding in those depths, an endless war illuminates with violence and flame, revealing yawning gulfs of nothingness, engored by raging tempests of the night. Ungoverned atoms fighting for their form, yet unblessed obliviate and fall. So all that wide abyss is racked with storm. Yet ever should the forms of night dissolve. No physics there, no order to uphold. So though often in the dark structures form, as rapidly should they disintegrate, and nothing should retain its shape or place. Yet I beheld in midst of hurricane, though buried deep in stench of smoking rain, a floating bulk of monstrous size and shape, so far off and obscure in vexing drifts, which wave-like battered sore my labored wings, I struggled through the warring elements, approaching slowly towards the giant shape, which seemed alone amidst that endless rout, adrift and stoic, but with gentle silent spin, a rock like onyx, shadowed bitumen, extending wide full twice this room in length. Let me inflame the wonder I discern now sparking in your eyes, for as I watched, the droplets and the hail of coal-black grains, which ever raged in typhoon and in gale, here stood ruled, condensing jagged crags, and settling together in crude piles, were erecting in the night that gross mass. I marveled for a moment in the dark, enduring undelineated gusts illumined by the flares, embattled clouds with thunderbolts and paling dusty mists, till suddenly I seized this oozing stone. My hands were plunged in thick and stringy sludge, and I with foul obnoxious slime was smeared. For such strength cemented it in its place, that I with all my power could scarce remove or break apart that mountain in the depths. I read amazement reigning in your face, And erewhile it ruled mine, when I beheld not only one such flotsam, but wheeled round, I descried in the lightning-flickered clouds, amidst the aimless maelstroms holding firm, armada-like, so many black-hulled rocks. They, scattered wide and receding in sight as far as chaos's tireless broils let view, in headlong tumble pepper the abyss. Then, in the furthest foggy deep, I peered, beholding, like a planet in the night, a structure spreading wide beyond my gaze, of obsidian and pitch, sulphuric condensate, and streaked with metallic veins. Then I felt the cold and frozen shiver, sensation of the dark and weeping stone I held, which seemed to yearn for that black world. It took the better of my angel's might to scape chaos with the inky prize. But here it lies, secure for our research, for you and I must understand these things, since not too long from now a project planned, till now kept secret, but soon to be known, shall use the matter wandering in that flood to raise a new creation for God's praise. So thus we must, if aught of bad or ill, if any unbecoming power holds, now swaying endless night to evil ends, or if the darkness hides a poisoned womb, which gross hath mingled with imperfect dregs, we shall with haste discover and forewarn, that God with perfect wisdom may advise. Instantly she turned, and with an upraised hand, in pirouette gave invite to my feet to follow her up alabaster stairs, through winding galleries of sculpted quartz which, lens-like, catching imperial sunshine, attenuating divine light serene, and separating out the mixed glow, cast rainbows on the polished granite walls. She led me to the highest gemstone spire, a sparkling spike of living amethyst, with buttresses of warm celestial steel that towered in the furthest north. She said, as we ascended endless steps of pearl, "An honor I've prepared for thee, dear friend, for thou shalt stand at my right hand, my aid, and by my side hear me unveil God's plan, which I and his archangels have kept hid. When thou hast heard, thou shalt, swift as lightning as it arcs o'er heaven in God's storm, when he his glory concentrates in clouds and billows forth volcanic thunderheads, so swift shalt thou perceive my grave concern at that foul rock pulled from polluted sedge." Surveying furthest regions from that height, which, towering o'er a plaza glimmering, outstretched beneath like silver-mirrored pool, stood highest point in all her noble realms, fair Lucifer beheld her angels throng, and like a forest stand below, so vast in number and formation, wing to wing, not all the mighty gilded jungle groves of Raphael's most paradisal woods could rival these here gathered neath our gaze. Nor quantity nor beauty could they match, with trunks adorned in silken livery, with wings like leafy branches casting shade, and with their locks bound up with amaranth, deep purple swirled, with flowing golden tress. They, heedful and consenting to her call, filled all the open plain and palace yard, as I stood breathless at the awesome view, while she, my lady, drew herself up tall, dilated on our platform, raised up high, she smiled on all her gathered realm of dawn. Dominions and princes, O powers and thrones, seraphim, cherubim, all heaven's ranks, from mightiest to lowliest, here stand all equals. Mark me, children of our God, as he appointed me this day to tell of wonders soon to blossom in the night. Behold the mount of God! She pointed back. It far and south like heaven's pistol stood, commanding tall, and pouring daylight out, like golden tides on summer's crystal shores. From God we have this vast empyrean, one heaven all, one God omnipotent, who for us his children dear gives bounty limitless in this our celestial home. And we, all free, all equally endowed with divine image, sweet reason divine that, as angel bodies wings mount aloft, to scout cerulean skies amidst cool clouds. So he made rationality to lift our minds aloft in liberty of thought, and all equal, each fit to choose their path, to wander heaven's endless azure airs, or catalogue the boundless works of God. Yet more, we joyfully announce this day a new creation, new world, and new minds, that God shall call forth from the realms of night, and by his power and with his life infuse, substantial being, creatures made of earth, gross body yet endowed like us with thought and strength and will to choose their winding ways. Rejoice with me that our great Father One hath bounteously opened divine stores to radiate fresh life and infuse thought even deep within the darkest womb of night. 10,000 fluttered banners brightly flew, proclaiming universal joy. Dear man, how much we celebrated thee. We praised the Father, true authentic worshippers. For in that moment, who could doubt him good, who multiplied superfluous the minds of creatures made to think and to enjoy harmonious this intellectual life? Presented with abundant bliss and boons, we thought his will was mild and unspotted. We thought him fatherly to thee and us, and knew not how he plotted from his throne. His will, like spider webbing stretching taut, suspended in the glossy morning air, invisible until it is too late, that when the hapless fly, riding the winds, pursuing odors as her nature leads, ensnared, discovers now the fateful trap, the spider wraps his helpless perplexed meal. Or like when vineyard angels tend the vine, and nurse with care the drooping clustered grapes, with true devotion mount a trellis firm, and string along on smooth and rigid wires to tend and cultivate a juicy crop, until that fated day, when all at once the gathered harvest is reduced to pulp, those wine-dark tabernacles crushed to must by feet of those whose hands had raised them up. Forthwith, our wise and loving Lucifer, in council with our holy God and with the other archangels we long conferred, our part to author and devise the physics, the overarching structure and design. Together, we a blissful cosmos planned, so orderly, but with ingenious cogs so subtly arranged with careful guile, that even long angelic scrutiny, studiously analyzing motions, parabolic, swiftly curving, or straight, could scarce deduce the fundamental scheme. And our glad task, to oversee this build, to guide our one angelic family, for thinking, willing, doing, these three acts, appointed dawn and dusk and noon in turn, divided labors twixt our varied skills, that each where talent shines predominant may exercise their unique excellence. For from the minds enthroned in golden seats, whose intellects hath woven crafty knots, to mason angels carving marble hills, the solar guardians to flank the sun, or lowly floral cherubim who paint with deepest blush the love-incensing rose, all heaven shall as one glad host rejoice, a free and happy people, whose consent is born from knowing themselves happy, free, and gifted with their blissful liberty by one almighty God, whose good we see. Then at her signal, as lo, with these words, she upthrust her arms, and with fingers fanned, outspread, and like a brooding mother hawk, she motioned all to soar in feathered flight. The noontide fish-scale sky was smit with wings of angels lost in midst of reveling. Unnumbered host, they fill the sky like fog. Their voices joined in holy hymn as hands plucked strings of phosphor bronze on sweet guitars, or harps of solid gold, or glossy lutes, and angel lips in holy embouchure gave breath and life to crystal-graven flutes. The legions trailed their chiefs, as in their throngs, accompanied by melody and march, each to their post, each given diverse tasks. Then straightway my lady Lucifer, "Tomorrow thou and I shall penetrate into the pitchy oceans of discord, wherein we'll spy that promontory coalescing from surrounding chaos, determining if aught in our two minds prevails in this long investigating, both what and whence that dead sulphuric world. Steel thy cherubic heart, dear Azazel, for grace of God is on thy gorgeous wings. Though dangerous to spirits, emptiness abyssal threatens more delay than death. We, pummeled by the timeless windswept sands, splashed with mud and sunk in briny whirlpool, or foundering in tornadic eddies instinct with magma, raining like red mist, shall carry God's high grace with us shield-like, to mind our steps and guard our winged paths. So shall we return safe, she reassured, and thus returning, with augmented news, shall speedily request of God his will. Go now, this day spend at thy ease and joy. Enjoy the honor on thee shown this morn, and ready make thy soul for our descent. Then one enchanted moment held our gaze, eye meeting angelic eye. Hers glowed warm and dark like shadows of gray twilight woods, when sable moonlight luminates broad leaves, making evening bright, though with spotted shade, as yet the summer heat lingers to night. She flew, and outspread her wings like white rose, all shining alabaster pure and soft, yet muscled with archangelic strength to soar. She streaked, and like a comet trailing fire, direct unto the seat of God she hied. My gaze pursued, until celestial sight, which on heaven's clearest noon, raised so high on Lucifer's observatory perch, ranged wide, and could distinguish, though distant, the smallest sand grains individual, lost track of her fair form, for heaven stretched in distance beyond measure creaturely. Then filled with joy, and moved with gratitude, I swift pursued her fiery path, condensed to clouds like woolen ropes, thick fluffy lines of vapors smote in air by flaming wings, as she impaled the sky with heated flight. I knew her bound for God's unrivaled mount, and I as much to drink the perfect wine of vision beatific neath his throne, as again to see her unrivaled shape, sped thence. Far journey from the furthest north, yet easy when through heaven's crisp soft airs, and driven by desire for that sight. From noonday to the skirts of dusk, I flew on pilgrimage, which we, in heaven, make at least by week, but almost all do more. For nothing else in all created life compares with bliss of beatific sight. The mount of God itself a quickening, in majesty unrivaled, towering into a distance beyond distances, the base whereof circumference unknown. For here geometry in sacred knots, tied up obtusely, holy curvatures, and metric space in boundless spiraled warp, keeps hid girthy extent from outward view. Thus, landing at the base, a pilgrim soul, perhaps in holy ardor seeking path to circumnavigate God's holy hill, might long eternal eons spend in march, and never find the place from whence they start. Its slopes, a craggy marble streaked with veins, stretch skyward to unmeasured altitude, for at its peak, or where its peak would be if it had stood a vulgar mountaintop, instead, a singularity in space subsumed the view of unsurmounted heights. So radiant the beams from that strange point where mountaintop of God slips through the sky and nestles in a spatial manifold, infinitude contained, whence rays of light, that even highest archangel looks not, nor seeks to wing their way to that bright point, but rather to the temples built on slopes of foothills round they wing. And so did I. There at a shrine, for numberless they stood, attended by cherubic acolytes, I set my heart at peace, ready to gaze. No being may look on God and live unharmed, nor without madness see him in himself. For he, eternal splendor infinite, pours forth, unbated and unlimited, his single thought containing every thought, and in himself he comprehends all things. So in his sight, one sees all things at once. All times and places and distances are lost. Unfiltered, such infinitudes undo the finitude of any finite being. And gazing at the supreme gazer, God, would swift reduce to atoms all myself. Yet under beatific pergola, a shrine like countless more on those fair slopes, I viewed divinely mitigated light, which he, unto the uniqueness of me, had softened, so that I yet still might live. Seraphic frankincense breathed perfumed smoke from out the golden censers, softly swung by cherubs charged to sanctify the air, as braziers held alluring amber coals, and ferns of white gold moonhorn fanned in breeze. I knelt beneath the pergola, a veil like purple wool or deepest bloody red, spread taut above and woven to a frame, upheld by transverse sanguine cedar beams. I felt that touch, that beautiful sweet heat. First brush of light on cheeks, and down my lips like hand of living candlelight, he grasped my drooping, lowly, reverential face, suspending all the cosmos else. Then I, at once dilated and compressed, my gaze upheld by his own potent hand, erect beneath his throne, my head turned high, beheld in softened wine-pink divine glare the bliss unutterable, sight of God, numinal tinnitus, the end of self, where timeless epochs, vivid worlds, and heat in narrative unlimited, the past and present and future, and myself, one, and held as though on edge of deep Sheol, in bliss, glad torment, in ecstatic groan, enforced then I, engorged with pure delight, superluminary sublimation. At once in peak of joy with loss of self, in pleasure I drank from the fount of love, thus filled with him, and thus emptied of me. I fell at last. My angel form laid prone, and I shivered, mumbling that name, somehow fulfilled and emptied in one stroke. I closed my eyes, on silken pillows draped, asleep in dreamless bliss obliviate.